So I saw various estimates for socialist programs like Social Security expansion, free college, Medicare for all will cost upwards of $40 trillion over 10 years, 40. Okay, they could argue with those numbers and so on, but so there's a cost. There's a taxpayer cost. Given the weight of that cost, can you still make the case with these programs, and then can you try to make the case against them that the cost is too high?
So I will not argue with you on the numbers because you
Sure.
just read random numbers. I do think universal healthcare, if done right, can be basically cost neutral. I think it's an exception because we spend a tremendous amount of money on healthcare, a huge percentage of our GDP. So I think it could be done in a way that's close to cost neutral.
So
But
actually,
yeah,
can you argue on the numbers without arguing on the numbers? So you're saying just your gut says that there's a lot of, depending on how these programs are done, there's a lot of variance in how much it will actually cost.
there's a lot of bureaucracy and billing right now in our healthcare sector, for example, that would be eliminated. There's a lot of costs that are spiraling upward of provider costs from both doctors, hospitals, but also pharmaceuticals to drug costs that insurance companies shoulder because their market share is too fragmented to really negotiate hard. Medicare can sometimes negotiate better rates, but Medicare for all would negotiate even better rates. So I think there's a cost spiral that we could adjust with more government involvement. And there's a reason why we spend a bigger share of our GDP on healthcare than other places. But let me just accept the broad premise that social programs cost money.
Mhm.
Now, I think that one, for ordinary people, most of them, the trade-off of, even hypothetically, if taxes on lower middle class and working class people in certain cases go up, the trade-off would still be in their benefit because they're the ones who would be consuming more of those goods, and also our tax system and whatnot is progressive, so the rich will pay more, the majority will consume more of them. Also, I think a lot of these programs are the bedrock of a healthy society. So, one reason, for example, that we have so much crime and violence in the U.S. There's lots of cultural and other causes with our level of gun ownership, American history, and so on. But one really important factor is just the level of poverty and inequality in the U.S. compared to other countries. That combined with guns and other factors means that we live in more violent, unequal societies. A European would be shocked by the fact that in even some of our nicest areas in in cities and elsewhere, because there's a lot of rural violence too, it's just normal to have gun violence. It's normal to have drug related violence. We have like 400 or 500 people some years in like Baltimore, like a city of under 1 million, getting killed. These are all recipes for a society in which one, the public sphere is strunk like crazy because you're not going to go wander out for an evening stroll in a park if you live in a dangerous area or whatever else. Like the rot goes very deep, and a welfare state is one way to live in a better society for everyone. There's been plenty of studies. There's one book called The Spirit Level on inequality that was quite popular, that just notes that inequality is really terrible for the psyches of the rich too, not just for the poor. So I think spending some more money living in a more just society is doable. There's different ways to address certain cost spirals. One reason why our welfare states are getting more and more expensive is in part just because our population is aging. But many of the same people who say we can't afford more in our welfare states because we're already spending so much on Social Security and all these other entitlements are the same people also for one, closing borders so immigrants can't come in to help build the economy and to fill gaps in the economy, and also who aren't for things that'll make it easier to have kids. I'm 33 years old. I have a lot of friends who have been putting off having kids until they save up X amount of dollars, even though they have someone they could, raise children with, because they can't afford the cost of childcare. They can't their job probably won't give them more than 4 or 6 weeks of family leave or whatever else. Like this is not the case in other countries. So I think there's all sorts of benefits from having a bigger welfare state. But yes, there are costs, and there are going to be certain trade offs. It's not a magical thing where you could just have everything without trade offs.